They told you to be nice, to be polite, to be good, but they never told you what to do with your rage. They taught you to smile at your enemies, shake hands with your doubts, and swallow your fear. They told you to be a light in the world, but they never taught you how to carry your darkness, and so it began. The splitting, the performance, the slow suffocation of the soul. You became who you were expected to be, and left behind the parts of yourself you feared would never be accepted. But Carl Jung saw something else. He saw that the true self is not the mask we wear. It is not the persona that bows to society. It is the totality of who we are, both light and shadow. The most powerful trait of the true self, Jung said, is not love, not kindness, not even intelligence. It is wholeness, and wholeness only comes when we integrate the shadow. The shadow is everything you were told not to be. It is your anger, your jealousy, your desire to dominate. It is your selfishness, your lust, your deep craving to be seen, not for your virtue, but for your truth. It is the you that was silenced, and it has been waiting. Most people live in fragments. They are polite in public and furious in private. They are confident online and anxious in reality. They are spiritual when watched and judgmental in secret. They think they are good. But Jung knew, goodness without wholeness is a performance. The world does not need more performances. It needs integration. Shadow integration is not about becoming dark. It is about becoming real. It is reclaiming your right to be fully human. You want to know who you are? Stop asking what makes you lovable. Start asking what makes you dangerous, because until you meet your own darkness, you will always be afraid of the darkness in others. This is why your boundaries collapse. Why you say yes when your soul screams no. Why you keep attracting the same patterns, the same people, the same pain. Your shadow is still in control. Not because it is evil, but because it is unconscious. You cannot master what you refuse to meet. And so, Jung invites you into the fire, to descend into the abyss of your own soul, not to become a monster, but to realize that the monster was never separate from the man. You are not broken, you are divided, and division creates weakness, but wholeness. Wholeness is a kind of power the world cannot touch. Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Most people don't know they're being controlled by their own shadow. They think it's bad luck. They think it's other people. They think it's just how life is. But the truth is much more haunting. It's not life. It's your unconscious self, scripting your reactions, building your relationships, choosing your desires, and creating the very suffering you pray to be delivered from. You're not haunted by a demon. You're haunted by your denied self. Jung saw it clearly in his patients. A man who denied his anger became passive-aggressive. A woman who repressed her sexuality became obsessed with controlling others. A society that refuses to look at its shadow becomes violent, paranoid, and addicted to virtue signaling. The shadow doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It becomes stronger. But here's the twist. The shadow is not your enemy. It's your power in exile. It holds your ability to say no, to fight back, to speak the truth without trembling, to set boundaries without guilt, to stand alone if needed, and most importantly, it holds the raw material for your individuation. The process, Jung said, was the path to becoming your true self. You cannot individuate by being nice. You cannot awaken by avoiding confrontation. You do not become whole by pretending to be perfect. Individuation means claiming everything you are, the sinner and the saint, the coward and the warrior, the liar and the truth seeker, and forging them into a unified soul. It means you stop trying to be good and start trying to be whole. This is not easy. It's not comfortable, but nothing real ever is. To integrate the shadow, Jung taught, is to return to yourself with brutal honesty, to look in the mirror and see your envy, your arrogance, your resentment, and not turn away. And here's the paradox. When you do this, you don't become worse. You become free. Integration changes everything. You begin to speak differently, with clarity instead of confusion. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop leaking your energy into people-pleasing. You feel less guilt when saying no, less anxiety when being alone, less fear when being misunderstood, because you have nothing to hide anymore. Jung's idea of shadow integration wasn't just spiritual, it was also deeply psychological, and he wasn't alone. Thinkers like Erich Neumann, Robert A. Johnson, and even contemporary voices like James Hollis echoed this. True maturity begins when we reclaim what we've exiled. You reclaim your anger, and suddenly you can defend yourself. You reclaim your sadness, and suddenly you feel empathy again. You reclaim your selfishness, and suddenly you understand self-respect. You are no longer split, you are whole. And from this wholeness comes presence, a quiet kind of power that radiates, not from force, but from integration. Jung believed that the goal of life was individuation, to become who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. And this path always leads through shadow work. There is no shortcut. You cannot pray your way around it. You cannot meditate your way past it. You must go through it, with courage, with honesty, and with a willingness to burn the false self to the ground. As the alchemists said, visata interiora terrae rectificando invenias occultum lapidem. Visit the interior of the earth, and by rectifying, you will find the hidden stone. The treasure is in the dark, not in your light, and when you find it, you will no longer be who you were. You will have become what you truly are, the most powerful people you know, the ones who radiate presence without saying a word. They've met their shadow. They've walked into their shame and made peace with it. They've stared at their envy and learned from it. They've embraced their ambition without apology. And you can feel it. There's a groundedness to them, a silence that isn't empty but full, a confidence that doesn't need to boast, because they are not pretending. They've stopped outsourcing their self-worth. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of becoming a whole human being. He didn't mean morally pure. He meant psychologically integrated. There is a kind of peace that only comes when you are no longer at war with yourself, when you stop hiding the parts of you that don't fit your image, when you stop curating your personality like a product. Because the true self isn't curated, it's carved. In fire, in shadow, in solitude. We live in a world that rewards surface, but the soul craves depth. And shadow work is the descent. Not into sin, but into sincerity. Not into evil, but into essence. It's where your healing lives. It's where your intuition sharpens. It's where your creativity explodes. When Jung worked with artists and thinkers, he found that their breakthrough didn't come from trying to be more positive. It came from embracing their chaos. The darkness held the key, and that key unlocked originality. You want to be magnetic? Stop trying to be liked. Start being whole. That's the paradox. The more you integrate, the more you stand out. The more real you become, the more others feel it, and the less you need their approval. In a world of masks, truth is power. Carl Jung believed that healing wasn't about becoming something new. It was about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And the deeper you go, the more you realize there is a wildness in you the world tried to domesticate. But that wildness, your instinct, your fire, your gut deep knowing, is not a flaw. It's the compass of the true self. This is why shadow work can feel like madness at first, because it breaks the spell of who you pretended to be. You start saying no to things you used to tolerate. You start setting boundaries without apology. You stop chasing people who abandon you. You stop performing for love. And those around you, they might not like it. They liked the version of you that said yes, that stayed quiet, that dimmed your light so they could shine. But the integrated self doesn't ask for permission to exist. It just does. Jung's psychology wasn't about self-help. It was about soul retrieval. The idea that we come into this world whole, and then, piece by piece, we give ourselves a way to survive. Shadow work is the rebellion. It's the act of calling yourself back. And as you reclaim your exiled parts, you begin to experience what Jung called the numinous, a sense of divine, awe-filled clarity that comes not from above, but from within. You begin to realize your dreams were messages, your fears were teachers, your breakdowns were initiations, and most astonishing of all, the life you secretly longed to live, it's been calling to you from the start. You just had to clear the noise of the false self to hear it. This is what it means to walk the path of the true self. It's not a path of perfection. It's not a path of popularity. It's a path of power, the kind that arises when you no longer abandon yourself. Carl Jung believed that when you reclaim your shadow, you reclaim your soul. Because every part of you, even the parts you hate, even the parts you hide, holds a fragment of your original essence. And when you gather those fragments and bring them into the light, something extraordinary happens. You stop needing the world to approve of you. You stop needing life to go your way. You become resilient, clear, awake. This is the most powerful trait of the true self: wholeness, not confidence, not charisma, not talent. Wholeness. It's what makes you magnetic without trying. It's what makes your silence thunderous. It's what makes your presence unforgettable. Because you've met yourself, you've befriended your shadow, you've returned to your center, and now you walk through life not as a seeker, but as someone who has remembered. And those who remember who they are the ones the world cannot control. They are the ones who change everything.